Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're taking a trip across the pond over to Ireland.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be fun. I've been looking through this newsletter, Love Ireland, and oh man, so much cool stuff.
I've heard of that one. Is it any good?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's great. It's got a lot of
Mm.
stories and travel tips and recipes and music recommendations.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to focus on today, some of the music stuff and the travel tips.
That's good.
Yeah, so uh, one of the first things that caught my eye was this performance of the Irish Rover.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, it's by the Dubliners and the Pogues. Have you heard this version?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with both those bands, of course, but
You got to check this out. It's
yeah.
like this amazing collaboration between these two legendary Irish groups.
Okay.
And the song itself, is a really old 19th century. That's got this real classic Irish folk sound.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really talk about Irish culture without talking about the music, can you?
No, not really. And the Irish Rover is such a good example of their storytelling tradition and this connection to the sea. Yeah.
Right, it's all about like epic journeys and, shipwrecks and a little bit of tragedy mixed in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this song, it's all about this big ship that's sailing from Cork to New York, and of course, things don't go exactly as planned.
I'm sensing a theme here.
There's always a little bit of drama in a good Irish song,
Yeah.
but it's that combination of the music and the storytelling that really makes it special.
And it's interesting how the song has been passed down through generations, right? Like the Dubliners, they've been around since the 60s, and then the Pogues came along in the 80s.
Yeah, and when they come together on this track, it's like this perfect blend of the traditional and the modern, you
They
know.
bring their own unique energy to it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's definitely one for our listeners to check out, the Irish Rover by the Dubliners and the Pogues.
I'll add it to the list.
All right, so moving on, the newsletter also mentioned another song that really got me thinking, the Cranberry Zombie.
Ah, a classic.
Right, but have you ever thought about why this song is still so popular? Like, it came out in the 90s, and it still feels so relevant.
Well, I think it's because it speaks to something that a lot of people can relate to, like that feeling of helplessness or frustration when you see conflict and violence happening in the world.
Yeah, the newsletter described it as having this, like, eerie tune and significant lyrics.
It's definitely got that haunting quality to it, and the lyrics are so powerful. They really capture the pain and the anger of that time.
And I think that's why it still resonates with people today, even if they haven't personally experienced those specific events.
It's like a universal anthem for anyone who's ever felt the impact of war or violence or just that sense of injustice in the world.
Exactly. And it's interesting because the song itself doesn't mention any specific location or conflict.
Right. It's very much open to interpretation.
But that's part of what makes it so powerful. It allows people to connect with it on their own terms.
It's about those universal emotions, the grief, the anger, the fear.
And it's a good reminder that music can be such a powerful form of social commentary.
Absolutely. It can give a voice to people who might not otherwise be heard.
So yeah, Zombie by the Cranberries, another one to check out if you haven't already.
Definitely a must listen.
Okay, so we've talked about music now. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about travel.
All right. Sounds good.
So Love Ireland had this great section on travel tips. And one thing that really stood out to me was their advice on renting a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they basically said if you're going to Ireland, rent an automatic and get the smallest car you can.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, apparently the roads in Ireland, especially in the countryside, can be pretty narrow and winding.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, and there are a lot of roundabouts.
Oh, yeah, those can be tricky.
So they recommend getting a smaller car just to make it easier to navigate those roads. And as for the automatic transmission, well, I guess it just takes some of the stress out of driving, especially if you're not used to driving on the left side of the road.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They drive on the left over there.
Yeah, so that can take a little getting used to.
Yep.
So having an automatic can just make things a bit simpler.
Good advice.
And while we're on the topic of driving in Ireland, the newsletter also mentioned something really important about insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
You got to make sure you have the right coverage before you go.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that's easy to overlook, but it can really save you a lot of trouble down the line.
Yeah, so definitely check with your U.S. policy or your credit card company to see if they provide coverage in Ireland.
And if not, you can always purchase a separate travel insurance policy.
Exactly. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Agreed. So we've got our music recommendations, our car rental tips, and insurance all sorted.
Yep, we're well on our way to planning the perfect Irish adventure.
I'm starting to get excited just thinking about it.
Me too. And you know what else has got me excited?
What's that?
The food.
Ah, of course.
The newsletter had this whole section on Irish stew,
Now you're talking my language.
but they left out a key ingredient.
They did.
Yeah, they're keeping it a secret. They're like, come to Ireland and find out for yourself.
Oh, that's sneaky.
I know, right? But it got me thinking about what makes Irish stew so special anyway.
Well, I think it's that combination of hearty flavors and simple ingredients. It's the ultimate comfort food.
Yeah, it's like a warm hug on a cold day.
Exactly. And it's steeped in tradition. It's a dish that's been passed down through generations.
Right, it's like a taste of history.
And you know what else I love about Irish food?
What's that?
It's all about bringing people together.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Whether it's a family gathering or a night out at the pub, there's always food involved.
And that sense of community and hospitality, that's such a big part of Irish culture.
Exactly. It's all about sharing a meal and enjoying each other's company.
Well said. And you know what? I think it's time we take a break.
Sounds good to me.
All right, we'll be back in a bit to continue our deep dive into Love Ireland. Okay, so we're back and still thinking about that Irish stew.
Oh, yeah, that missing ingredient.
I know it's killing me, but it's got me thinking about, all the stories we've heard about people traveling to Ireland and how much they love it.
Yeah, the newsletter had some great ones.
Right, like that couple who got lost on those back roads and ended up in this charming little village with a pub and live music.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one. Sounds like something out of a movie.
I know, right? And it just made me think, it's those kind of unexpected moments that really make a trip special.
Absolutely. You never know what you're going to find when you venture off the beaten path.
And that's what I love about this whole Love Ireland thing. It's not just about, checking things off a list. It's about really immersing yourself in the culture and, just being open to whatever comes your way.
It's about embracing that sense of adventure.
Exactly. And, the newsletter also talked about how important it is to, connect with the local people.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
They were saying, like, to strike up a conversation with someone at the pub or, ask for directions from someone on the street.
It's all about those little interactions that really make a place come alive.
Right. And it's a chance to, get a different perspective on things, hear some local stories, really get a feel for what it's like to live in Ireland.
And you know what? I think that's one of the things that makes Irish culture so special is that sense of hospitality.
Oh, yeah.
They're so welcoming and friendly. They really make you feel at home.
And that comes through in the newsletter, too. Like, even though it's just a collection of stories and tips, it feels like a personal invitation to come and experience Ireland for yourself.
It's like they're saying, come on in, the water's fine.
Exactly. And you know what? I think we should probably talk a little bit more about the music.
Oh, yeah. We can't forget about the music.
Right, because it's such a huge part of Irish culture. And, we've already talked about the Irish Rover and Zombie, but there's just so much more to explore.
I mean, you could spend a lifetime listening to Irish music and still only scratch the surface.
I know, right? But what's interesting to me is how the music reflects the history and the landscape of Ireland.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like you can hear those influences in the melodies and the lyrics, the stories of immigration and hardship, and also that, that love of nature and the sea.
It's all there in the music.
And, it's not just about the traditional stuff either.
Right. There's a really vibrant contemporary music scene in Ireland, too.
Yeah, with bands like The Script and Hosier and, so many others.
They're all putting their own spin on Irish music and, taking it to new audiences around the world.
It's really exciting to see. And I think it just shows how Irish culture continues to evolve and adapt, while still staying true to its roots.
It's that balance of tradition and innovation that makes it so fascinating.
Exactly. And I think that's a good place to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
We've covered a lot of ground, from music to travel to food.
And we've still got that missing ingredient to uncover.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. We'll get to that. But first, we need to take a quick break.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Love Ireland.
Yeah, I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's so much more we could explore, but we are running out of time.
True, but I think we've given our listeners a good taste of what Irish culture is all about.
Yeah, and hopefully inspired them to maybe, plan their own trip or at least learn a little bit more about Ireland.
Absolutely. And you know what really struck me about this newsletter?
What's that?
It's that sense of invitation, like they're not just presenting information, they're really trying to draw you in.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, come and experience Ireland for yourself.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes it so effective. It's not just a travel guide, it's a love letter to Ireland.
Well said. And, speaking of love letters, I think we need to talk about that missing ingredient in the Irish stew.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They never did tell us.
Nope, they're keeping it a secret. But you know what? I bet it's something simple.
Probably something like a pinch of love.
Maybe, or, a sprig of thyme from the Irish countryside.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
But you know what I think the real secret ingredient is? The experience itself.
What do you mean?
Like, imagine you're sitting in a cozy pub in Ireland. You've just spent the day exploring the countryside. The fire is crackling. You're surrounded by friendly locals. And you're about to dig into a steaming bowl of Irish stew.
Okay, yeah, I can picture it.
Right. And in that moment, it doesn't really matter what the secret ingredient is because you're experiencing Ireland with all your senses. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes.
It's about being present in the moment.
Exactly. And I think that's something that Love Ireland really captures, that sense of being fully immersed in the Irish experience.
It's about slowing down, taking it all in, and appreciating the simple things.
And you know what else I think is important?
What's that?
Remembering that you don't have to be Irish to appreciate Irish culture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's something that everyone can enjoy. Whether you're interested in the music or the history or the food or just the beauty of the landscape.
It's a culture that's rich in tradition, but also very welcoming to outsiders.
Exactly. And I think that's a great message to leave our listeners with.
So what's the one thing we want them to take away from this deep dive?
I think it's simple. Go experience Ireland for yourself.
Yeah, don't just read about it. Go and see it, feel it, taste it.
Let the music move. You let the landscape inspire. You let the people charm you.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover that secret ingredient in the Irish stew.
Maybe so.
Mm.
But even if you don't, you're sure to come away with a newfound appreciation for the Emerald Isle.
Well said.
So until next time, may the road rise to meet you and the luck of the Irish be with you always.